I'm Kat from the Wild Alaskan Company recipe team, and today is dedicated to Pacific cod. It's a whitefish that, in my mind, is a platonic chowder fish. It's my go-to species for stew, soup, curry. It's firm, it holds together really nicely, it doesn't disintegrate when it's in a stew, but it's also like kind of light in texture. The other way that I really have always enjoyed cooking Pacific cod is basically doing something that's kind of like a fish and chips with it. I haven't done an event around this, but it's air fryer fish and chips, kind of like a play on that. But, you can do more with cod than putting in a stew or just like frying it and breading it, basically. I have a couple options that I think can really help you enjoy the fish in more ways than that. What we're going to start with is a baked whitefish dish with breadcrumbs. Kind of like a don't fix it if it ain't broke type of recipe. I have the oven preheated right now to 400 degrees. All we're going to be working with here is I have breadcrumbs, a little bit of garlic minced, some fresh parsley chopped up, slices of lemon, some cherry tomatoes, really simple basic ingredients. Oh, and olive oil, of course. I just love how simple this recipe is and how satisfying it is. You don't have to think too hard to enjoy it. The first thing I did, I patted the fish dry. This little stripe, I find if I ever have a tough piece of cod, which sometimes it's just the cut of the fish, it's usually this that's the culprit. So one thing that I've been doing lately is using a knife, a sharp knife ideally, to just score the skin a little bit. And let me just try to do this without cutting any of my other fingers. You'll see kind of like gives the cod this like accordion shape. When this cooks up, it's going to flake so easily. You're not going to have to sort of like saw your way through it with a fork ever, even if you overcook it a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and put this into this little baking dish, single size baking dish. I like to put this onto a few slices of lemon, and actually like this part that I just scored, I'm going to put that face down here. To this, what I'm going to do is add this mixture. You don't really have to measure, just get the breadcrumbs nice and just saturated. Another thing that you can add to any sort of breadcrumb topping ever, just to make it a little extra golden, is a little bit of Parmesan cheese. I like to have this in here because it adds a nice like crisp texture. I'm gonna drizzle this with some olive oil. And then on top of this is all I'm gonna do. Pile on the breadcrumbs. I'm gonna put this right on top here. So all of this extra fat and kind of this like layer is gonna keep the fish super moist, and help reduce the risk of it drying out. It's gonna add some tomatoes in here too. Just give that a nice seasoning to taste. And then I'm just going to pop this into the oven for 6 minutes to get it started. We're not going to cook it all the way through. We're going to start cooking it and then finish it under the broiler. So the broiler is just going to take it that extra step to make the top nice and crispy. So while this is baking, I have a few more minutes. Let me just get my next scenario set up here. So recipe number 2 is my absolute favorite way to cook Pacific cod, a Cantonese style steamed cod recipe that I developed with one of my coworkers at Wild Alaskan Company, and it's so good. It's really light, really fresh, also features minimal ingredients. Basically, you're going to be steaming fish and then sort of topping it with a sizzling hot ginger scallion oil. So some of this is going to go into sizzling oil. Some of it's just going to be served with the fish fresh as like a garnish. What we're going to do to steam Pacific cod is, let me bring over my pot of water. I have just a pot of water with maybe like an inch or so of water at the bottom of it. I'm going to bring this to a simmer here in just a moment. But the idea is this little bowl is in here because I'm going to be putting this plate inside. There's a little bit of room around the edges here for steam to come up onto the fish. And then I'm just going to be steaming the fish like this with a lid on top until it gets nice and flaky. That's like pretty much all we're going to do to cook this fish. And then we're just going to make a sizzling oil. But while we're heating up this water, I'm just going to start this back here. Just gonna bring it to a simmer over medium heat. It's about time to check on the baked cod. So what we're looking at right now is definitely cod that is not totally cooked yet. So I'm actually gonna let this cook under the broiler to finish. But otherwise, I think after a minute or so, this is gonna be ready and hopefully not burnt. So let me just get my broiler preheated here while I get my next station set up. This will just take a minute to heat up on the induction burner. And in the meantime, I think I can probably put this cod under the broiler. Let's see. The cod, hopefully, I've timed it right, is only going to need another minute or two to cook. It smells really good, by the way. Anytime there's garlic and olive oil involved, I feel like you really can't go wrong. So I'm starting to see some steam rising in here, and this bowl is actually moving. So maybe I'll turn it over. That should work. This looks like it's going to be simmering pretty soon here. So in the meantime, we've got some baked cod. This is what this looks like. I'm just going to set this off to the side. Definitely left it in there for probably about 20 seconds too long, but it looks perfectly flaky. I can see this edge is already like popping off on the side here. So this looks done to me, but I'm just going to set it off to the side and let that rest while we do my favorite cod method of all. So this looks like it's getting nice and steamy. Let me go ahead and put this fish in here. Lid is going to go on, and that's going to cook for 6 minutes. In the meantime, I'm going to move this back to my actual burner so that I can show you how to make the sizzling oil that goes on top of this. And then the sizzling oil part I find is really satisfying to do when you're serving this fish. I'm going to start this out by adding maybe a tablespoon or so of oil. So once this starts shimmering, we'll know it's hot enough to actually fry some veggies. But we're just going to add maybe like 2/3 of this scallion and ginger combination here. This looks like it's already hot enough. This doesn't have to be like perfectly like medium high so you're searing anything. You just want to get this so that it's hot enough to bubble like this. And yeah, in about a minute, the ginger should be nice and golden, and that is definitely what we're looking for. The rest of this is just going to go onto the fish nice and fresh so that we have like a little bit of like a mix of flavors and textures, but they're all going to be in the same sort of family. Let me just take a peek at the pot to see. I think I've only cooked it for about 4 minutes, but I just want to see how it's here. Definitely need to do some more steaming, so I'm just going to turn that up a little bit. The only other thing that we're going to be adding to this fish is a little bit of soy sauce and water. I think a tablespoon is probably good. This is just going to go off to the side for topping the fish, but since this is basically done, so got this cute little plate here. I'm going to go ahead and transfer this to a serving plate. We'll keep the lemons in just for good measure. And the tomatoes have like a little nice warm juiciness brought out by the heat. The moment of truth is how flaky this is. That little piece there just like literally popped off the fish, and it's like this really delicious texture. If you've never tried this method, you'll be surprised at how simple and easy and how well it works. Like the lemon is key, the olive oil is key, the little breadcrumb topping is perfect for it. And I really think that scoring that little like dark stripe goes a long way to keep the fish like kind of like flaking off into these perfect little bites. So awesome. You know, why even try any other recipe other than like breadcrumbs and garlic on fish? This is really, really delicious, but I'm gonna set it aside because we have another delicious thing to eat. So I can tell that this fish is ready. So what we are looking at now is steamed Pacific cod. You'll notice that it's starting to flake apart already on the edges here. On top of this, I'm going to just throw on some of these fresh little toppings here. Tons of cilantro. Pour over this soy sauce and water. So, all right. We have hot sizzling oil now, And if you're cooking this one for more than one person, what I like to do is serve the hot oil at the table so that you have this moment of drama. So we're just gonna do this. I don't know if you can hear that, but I've got some really tasty sounding like popping and bubbling. So this is got fresh textures, crunchy textures, some nice like balance of fat and leanness and flavor. So what I'm just gonna do now is bust into this fish. It's so delicious, fluffy, marshmallow light, awesome. It's like so good, and I love making this recipe, like I said, when I have people over because it's just like really simple and the ingredient list is super short. So anyway, so that's all for today. Next week, I'm hosting another round of easy ways to eat more seafood. It's a back to basics event where I cover different ways to thaw fish, helpful tools, essential ingredients, and a little demo of a different foolproof cooking method for any fish. And I hope to see you there. Thanks for your time today, everyone. Live wild.